Welcome back everyone, this is Mondo All Day, back with another video, and in this video, I'll be doing an overview of Batwoman the Omnibus. I'll be talking about a little bit of story, the art, and of course, if it's worth your purchase or not. Before we get started, make sure you hit the subscribe button to not support the channel, but to keep up to date and watch videos like this. So let's take a look at front of the dust jacket, the spine, the back, and I'll show you a full spread image of the dust jacket. And check this out. This is pretty cool. I actually like this. Like, see that? That's pretty cool. You have to admit, that's pretty dope. Alright. Put this to the side somewhere. Alright. Front of the book. The spine. The back. And I'll show you a full spread image of the art itself. Alright. Now let's take a look at what's inside. So, what is this book about? So, right off the bat, I'll say this right now. This book, this book is messy. This is a really messy book. And the way I'll explain it or break it down is like this. There's 4 parts to this particular omnibus. They do all connect with one long story, but it is broken into 4 different parts. So what I'll do is I'll explain to you each part, give you my opinion, and more importantly, discuss why this book is messy. So, with that said, let's just get right into it. So, the first part is going to be about this particular villain that's going after Batwoman, and some of these attacks that occur are personal to Batwoman. I'm not going to say too much, because I don't want to spoil it, but there are some twists and turns here and there, and so the way it ends with a bit of a cliffhanger and a twist. And so this first part of the book, I gotta say, I liked it. It's a fun book. The art is really good. The pacing is above average. Just the story itself is pretty simple, straightforward, but it makes Batwoman shine very, very well. So the first book, or first part, really liked it. The second part, it's just gonna be about her origin story of Kate Kane's origins. Her relation with her family, her father, what happened to her when she was younger, but more importantly, what motivated her to pick up the mantle as Batwoman. And pretty much an origin story, and that part of the particular book, or this particular book, it's fine. It's not bad or great, it's fine. It is heavy dialogue. I mean, it is expected because, well, they are telling the origin story of Kate Kane or Batwoman, so that second part of the book, it's fine. The third part is the messiest, which I'll skip for a bit, but we're going to skip it for now. But I'll come back to it. The fourth part of the book is probably my favorite one. It's going to be mainly of Batwoman going up against Batman due to some, I don't want to say too much, I'll spoil it, but some personal issues. And again, this whole book connects to, even though there's 4 different sections, it do all connect. So when you read when you read the fourth part of the book, which is Batwoman going up against Batman, it'll make more sense, because if I would explain to you why, it'll essentially spoil it. I don't want to spoil it, but in short, the last story is going to be Batman versus Batwoman, and that story, it's fun, it's exciting, it's action-packed. Again, it shows Batwoman being a badass, and I liked it. Now, the third part, this is where it gets really messy. So the third part of the book is going to be about these kids are being abducted randomly. They're being kidnapped by certain characters and villains, we'll talk about it in a bit. And so Batwoman has to figure out who is kidnapping all these children and why. The story progresses, and this is where it gets messy, because the first part of the third chapter to this book, however you want to call it or say it, it's good, it's engaging, the premise is really simple, but then Batwoman teams up with Wonder Woman, and the story in itself, in terms of the whole children being kidnapped, it goes off the rails, and I can see why people don't like that particular story. For me, I liked it. It got a little crazy, and so that part of the story is, or third part I should say, is a little trippy, because once that third part starts, or the third story starts, in terms of the kidnapping of the children, it's fun. It's like pretty straightforward and simple. But then Wonder Woman comes in and they team up. That's where it gets a little odd. But at the end, it's like, okay, I can work with it, it's fine. Now, where it gets really, really messy is... okay, here we go. So the third part of the chapter, as I mentioned, is about kidnapping of the children. Fine, pretty straightforward. The problem, though, I have is that the first part, before Batwoman teams up with Batwoman, the problem with the story is, or the third part, is going to be the fact that there's a lot of time jumps. And I mean a lot of time jumps. So, for example, you'll be reading a part of the book or the chapter, and then you flip the page, and it says, 10 minutes from now, Batwoman, something happens. And you flip the page, 3 hours ago, by another character. And you flip another page, 2 years ago, by another character. So there's a lot of time jumping, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it just gets so much to where it becomes just annoying. And it just, I just hate it. I did not like it. The story in itself, like I said, in terms of the whole kidnapping of the children, it's called The Drowned. That story's fun. I liked it. Simple premise. The villains are fun because a lot of urban legends. I mean, well, I'll just kind of give it away. One of the villains. And so one of the villains is going to be the Weeping Woman, or La Llorona. Basically, it's a woman who drowned her children, and so a lot of the villains in that story are going to be about those myths or urban legends. You got Bloody Mary in there. You have like an animal that kills you or eats you in the sewers. So little things like that. And so, again, the drowned story and the premise and the villains, it's fun and I like it. But the whole time jump, that gets so annoying. It's over the top. Few here and there is fine. But at some point during the drowned storyline, it just goes bonkers. And it's literally one page, I kid you not, 10 minutes from now. And then 2 minutes prior. And then this. And it's just like, come on. Eventually, it just stops doing that. And it continues with the story. And like I said, it connects with Wonder Woman, where Batwoman and Wonder Woman team up. And now this part of the book too, or the story, it gets frustrating because when Batwoman teams up with Wonder Woman, it gets very, very dialogue heavy. There's a lot of inner dialogue, inner thoughts. What I mean by that is when you're reading the part of the third part of the book, where Batwoman teams up with Wonder Woman, there is a lot of inner dialogue where Batwoman is discussing how she feels about Wonder Woman, how she feels about the case, about certain characters, all while also having conversation with Wonder Woman and other characters. And same thing with Wonder Woman. When she appears, she starts having a lot of inner dialogue about the current situation, also about Batwoman, how she sees Batwoman, and also having regular dialogue with Batwoman. And that is a bit of an issue because it's so much dialogue to where, honestly, I shouldn't say this, but I started just skimming through some of the inner dialogue because it went from, okay, this is kind of cool, you kind of get an idea of what they think, how they see the one another, but it gets so much inner dialogue to the point where I'm just saying, you know what, I'm just going to skip through some of this inner dialogue. I did read in terms of what happened in the story, but the inner dialogue, though, it just got too much to where it just became a chore. And that's where this whole thing, what I said regarding being messy, is because the first part of the book, which is about the attacks that are personal to her, it's fun. I'm into it. I'm engaged. The art's incredible. I'm into it. The second part, okay, it's a backstory. I get this, it's heavy dialogue, which is fine. The third part of the book, The Drowned, and with Wonder Woman, it's just so much time jumping. It gets annoying. And then the whole inner dialogue, inner thoughts, it's so much. I kid you not, so much. It's like almost like reading a novel. And it's just too much where I have to just skip through some of the inner dialogue. I did read the dialogue within the story, but the inner dialogue itself in terms of each character, it's too much because even the villain has inner dialogue himself, or inner thoughts. Even though the side characters have inner thoughts as well too, and it's just extremely heavy dialogue. So just be wary of that. Again, this book, it's a mix, and I can see why people may like it, also dislike it. But the best thing about this book, and I'll say this right now, it's gonna be the art, because the art in here, it is fantastic. This book has a lot of splash pages. If you don't know what that is, basically it's just gonna be, let's say for example here, perfect, this is what I mean by that. It's all one big old art. See that? splash pages, and this book has a ton of them, and I mean a ton of them. Like there's pages after page. Like here, perfect example right here. There's pages after pages after pages of just splash images, and it looks incredible. The art is, you can just get this book or read this book and just appreciate the art. You can just get so invested with the art because so much detail and creativity. I gotta give credit though. The art is fantastic. But the biggest problem though is gonna be the third part, because when you're reading this portion right here, the book right here, the Drowned, again, it's not bad. It starts off good, but then when the whole time jump kicks in, it's like, oh, okay, whatever. Once that Drowned story ends, for now, and Wonder Woman comes in, then you have the inner dialogue, and again, it's just like, oh gosh, so much dialogue. It's just unnecessary. I get what they're trying to do, and it makes sense in terms of the context of the story, what they're trying to do, but it's just excessive. That's where the problem is. The art, like I said, the art is fantastic. The art alone gives this book an extra page, extra point. I'm telling you, when you see the art in here, especially the splash pages, you're going to be like, damn, it's just so good. And the art is easily 10 out of 10. Pacing, as I mentioned regarding the pacing of the books, or the chapters of the book, or sections, it does vary. Sometimes it's very below average, like almost slow, and other times it's above average. So the pacing does vary. Paper quality, this is omnibus, so you get the nice glossy paper. Do you need to have prior knowledge? Nope, you're perfectly fine. If you are interested in reading about Batwoman, want to know more about her, like the origins and just the story for Batwoman, this is a perfect book for you. If you want to see a kick-ass story, like really in-depth storytelling, yes, this is fine. Just be worried about the third part, because when that third part story kicks in, aka with the Drowned, just expect the whole time jumps, Wonder Woman, and heavy inner dialogue. So overall, though, what do I give the Batwoman Omnibus? Honestly, I give it a low thumbs up. Even though it has issues, there are some moments here that I really like. The first part of the book, the second part of, in terms of the oranges, it's fine. The third part, I'm torn, because on the one hand, it starts off strong, and then the time jump gets really annoying, and then the whole team up with Wonder Woman, the inner dialogue is too much and excessive. The story in itself is a bit grand, but it's a bit messy in execution. But the last story of Batman and Batwoman going up against one another, that's the fun part, and I liked it. But what made me really like this book, though, is going to be the art. I'm telling you, the art in here is just top-notch, 10 out of 10. So once again, what do I give the Batwoman Omnibus? I give it a low thumbs up. It's a good book for those of you who do not know much about Batwoman, but again, just when that Drowned story does come into play, just be wary of the fact that, well, it's going to be some issues and it's pretty darn messy. Now let's take a look at the extras in the back, and the extras in the back is just going to be variant covers, so there you go. A lot of the art here, a couple of sketches here, but really cool art. Again, the art in here is just top notch. Like this right here, look at this. This is pretty darn cool. So much detail. There's bones right here, and just sketches in the back. Scripts. There's Wonder Woman right here. Oops, I think I skipped the page. Again, just look at the splash page. Look at all that detail. It's just so much, man. The art alone is like 1 point. That's how good. Look at this. This is all splash page. Just all of that detail. This is just a sketch. Imagine when it's all colored. Oof. And that is what this say is that. Let me know what you guys think. Have you read this book? Do you plan on reading this book? Leave it in the comment section below. As always, make sure you hit the subscribe button to join our support channel, but to keep up to date and watch videos like this. This includes an overview of Batwoman Omnibus, and on to the next one.